I'm Carl Zavanet. I'm the outgoing president of EWB, Lehigh Valley Professional Chapter, and welcome to our annual fundraiser and show. So most of you are aware we scheduled this originally in April and had to delay it for obvious reasons, and then moved it to October, and we got delayed again. So we decided to do this via Zoom. So thanks a lot for joining us today. And the screen that was rolling before, of course, thanks to all our sponsors and donors, et cetera, and many of which are on the phone now. So thanks again to everybody. A couple of logistical things before we get started with the talk. We are recording this. We'll put it someplace and then make it available for everyone to see later. Like I said, you've all been muted. Please leave them that way. If you have questions, open up the chat in the bottom of your Zoom meeting. You can enter chat questions there. And of course, we'll have a link down there if you want to make donations during the talk. If you have any questions, put them there. If we can't answer them right away, we will answer them at the end of the meeting. So let's get started. What you're going to hear today, obviously my opening comments, but Clyde Odom, who's the incoming president of the chapter, is going to talk a little bit about the history and operations of the chapter. And then Bill McNair is going to talk about the work that's been going on in the Dominican Republic. Bill has had a unique challenge down there in all the different groups he's had to work with, and you're going to hear a lot about that. And Bill's really done a great job in pulling those people together and getting the work done. Tom has had a separate kind of challenge in Sierra Leone. He's been the project manager there. And this has been the largest project we've ever done. There was 2 separate teams that went over. It was more money than we've ever spent before, a larger operation. So a lot of components to that Tom had to manage. And again, you'll see the results. Again, a very good job. I'll come back on with some wrap up and final comments, and then we'll turn it over to Julie, our fundraiser, just say a few words about where we stand with fundraising and what's going on in the future. So Clyde, let me turn it over to you.
All right, as Carl said, I'm Clyde Odom. I'm going to be this coming year's president for our chapter here. And I've probably been with the chapter about 6 years now. Feel like a newcomer compared to some of you guys. But I want to spend a few minutes today and just give you a little background and history of the Engineers Without Borders National, and more about our local chapter, which is the Lehigh Valley Professional Chapter. And I'm going to just tell you who we are and a little bit about what we do. The national chapter mission is to partner with developing communities, implement sustainable solutions, meaning solutions that the communities can maintain themselves, and promote the engineers that, most of them student engineers, that are involved, to just bring attention to them. It helps them when they're trying to write their resumes, and that's an important thing. The Engineers Without Borders started with an idea back in 2000 to connect developing communities and bring sustainable solutions to them for their problems. Dr. Bernard Amade, I've had 2 pronunciations for the name, from the University of Colorado in Boulder, visited a small town in Belize in 2000. Now, maybe he was there on vacation and just happened to pick Belize as the place to be. But the town is pretty far away from the coast towards the northern part of the country. So I don't think that's really how he got there. But at any rate, he decided to work with that community. He assessed their water supply, and he chose 8 students from the University of Colorado to go there, partner with the community, and put in a clean water system powered by the local water well. Well, that whole idea of using students with developing communities, providing solutions, just resonated a lot with the engineering community and the rest of the university communities. And chapters started developing across the United States fairly quickly. So in 2002, apparently they were in a situation where they decided to incorporate. And from those beginnings in 2000, Engineers Without Borders USA has pretty much grown to over 17,000 members, and it's affected almost 3 million people worldwide. Now you'll ask, well, how do all these chapters accomplish their mission? How do they provide the work that with the quality that the Engineers Without Borders has put together? Well, all the chapters execute the projects under the National's umbrella and the rules and the procedures that they've laid out using typical project management methods and processes. And the national organization is just a small staff in Colorado, and they establish the project guidelines. They provide us with technical advisory committees that review our projects. Sometimes they may make suggestions on our projects. And then they've established some country liaison offices. Right now there's only 3. But that's pretty much how they function. Now, for the Lehigh Valley Professional Chapter, that's our chapter. It started in 2008 with 3 members who found an interest in helping people, wanted to get involved. And our chapter's mission is pretty much in alignment with the national chapter, which it needs to be. And we want to put together sustainable projects in the US and abroad, wherever we work. We want to groom members as project and chapter leaders to keep ourselves propagating. We want to involve our local community as much as possible. So we need their support and their help. And we like to mentor the student chapters where we can. Now, right now we're mentoring 2 chapters. Lehigh University has an ongoing student chapter, and they're actually working with Bill on the Dominican Republic. And we're also coaching the Lafayette chapter, or trying to coach the Lafayette students to reestablish their chapter. They had one, and it waned, and now they're trying to reestablish it. Now, what do we do as a chapter here? Now, locally, in the past, we've done some energy mapping and audits at the 3rd Street Shelter in Easton and a local church. And we've worked with the Lehigh University chapter to help design a community garden water tank, which I think they implemented. Most recently, we've been consulting with the Emmaus Creative Arts and Innovation Center. They're putting in a new innovation center there, similar to what the Fab Lab is, or comparable to the Fab Lab that Northampton County Community College has in Bethlehem. But this one's taken a totally arts look at that type of facility. And then most recently, a group of us showed up at the Habitat for Humanity build that they're having down in Easton, Allentown, where they're building 2 new houses there. We had a good time doing that. And next page. There we go. Chapter. How does a chapter operate? How do we keep ourselves together, so to speak? Well, we have an executive committee that has a president, which will be me this year. Vice president's going to be John Shakini. We have our returning secretary, Jim Saki. He's been doing a really good job as our secretary. He's also been putting a lot of time in on our 2 main projects, helping get those designs together and working with the project managers. We have a treasurer for life, Jim Butt, who also does an outstanding job He's about the only one who has spent enough time working with the national chapter and has the outstanding patience with the chapter and the national organization to keep our books together and coordinated. Our ex officio, meaning the outgoing president, is part of this committee, and then any committee chairman that we have is part of this committee. What does it do? Well, it reviews our projects, it sets the budgets, it coordinates the activity, kind of keeps everything together. We have regular meetings, which generally are open to all members, and we do that monthly, and that's where we talk things through. Then you would ask, okay, well, how do you fund yourself? Where do you get the money? What do you do? Well, that's why we're here tonight. We generally have an annual fundraising event, and as Carl said, due to the pandemic, that's kind of changed our plans this year, as it has for most everybody. So tonight we're trying to have this event as a way to update everyone that has supported us in the past, and we do appreciate everyone being on tonight and being present, and any donations that you're willing to give, we would certainly appreciate. And that's what we're doing tonight. We also have grants, primarily from Rotary has been our major grant provider through, I think it was 7430 West End Rotary. They've been very supportive to us, but we need to find some other grants, and we need help, if anyone's available, to research grants and help us write grants. We're going to need a lot more money to help supplement what we're not able to do now with having our annual fundraising event. And then we have some other donations that come in through generous providers like yourselves and some other companies. And then membership. Who's in our membership? Well, anyone who wants to be a member can pretty much be a member. If you're interested in helping people and you're willing to put in your time and give your talents to helping people, you pretty much can join. There's no cost to join us. And we have all types of backgrounds. We have accountants and business administration people, doctors, nurses, school teachers, people who are not engineers. We need all skills to get these projects done. You'll hear about the projects tonight, and you'll understand better why we need all these different skills. Especially, we need structural engineers and translators, civil engineers. That seems to be an area that we have the most trouble in getting the proper support we need. So with all of that, how do you staff a project? Well, we select a project manager for a project. Generally, it's somebody we talk into volunteering to be a project manager. And then any member of the chapter can join the team and support the team in their efforts to design or travel or whatever is needed. And the XCOM, which is the executive committee, ensures that there's enough support for the project, enough people, the funds are there, and helps keep it coordinated. So where can you find us? How can you get involved with us? Well, on the screen there's a whole list of sites. The USA organization site, you can start there. You can hit the, I think it's selection number 3. You go down and you can set up your own volunteer village account, and you go through and search for the Lehigh Valley chapter, and you can join us at that point. You can look at our own organization site, the LVP.org site, and get an update of what's going on. That's also a place where you can go donate to us. We would certainly appreciate it. And then we have a Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube places that you can check out and see what's going on with us. And now, that's all I have. And I'd like to turn it over to Bill McNair, who's going to talk to you about the Dominican Republic and all the great work that's happening there. Take it away, Bill.
I'm Bill McNair, and I'm broadcasting from beautiful downtown Orfield, PA, which is also the home to Shankweiler's Drive-In. which according to CBS Sunday morning TV show today, is the oldest drive-in in the USA. I'm a civil engineer. I spent most of my career working on water and environmental engineering projects. And I'm the lead on the Dominican Republic project. Today I'm going to talk about, among other things, our Dominican Republic project visionary, Pastor Eddie Ibar, mapping our work, project funding, our future work, a future engineer, and just say thank you for the work that you've been able to let me do. As Clyde spoke, Bernard Amadeus started EWB-USA in 2002. He spoke at the Lehigh Valley Engineers Banquet very shortly thereafter, and I got to see him there. And it was very interesting to me. I had a very good job then, and I was working, enjoyed my work a lot, but this EWB thing, was able to do building a water system for people who really needed it, sounded really exciting. So I started out advising the EWB chapter at Lafayette College and did that for a few years. And then when EWB Lehigh Valley Professional started around 2009, I got to work on the Sierra Leone project in Centennial School in Matru, putting in a water well. Well, when I put the well in, we were doing a test of the water. We got water, which was the first big thing. Doing the test, we had a lot of water, and I'm trying to do a pump test to measure how much, and people lined up with their buckets to fill them up with my test water. And I said, what's going on? And they said, oh, there's a drought in Sierra Leone, and they're looking everywhere for water. So while I compromised my test a little bit, it was a good deal. We gave everybody that asked for it as much water as they could use. So that's the first thing. And we had a moment like that last November, and here you see a picture of Pastor Eddie getting the first container of water out of our tap stand in Cabeza de Toro in the Dominican Republic. Pastor Eddie has been our visionary on the Dominican Republic project. He knows his people from the DR. He's from the DR, and he has a parish in Allentown now, but he travels back and forth a lot. He's been our logistics manager, the connection to anyone we need to talk to, as well as our driver, translator, keeping us fed and safe, and everything like that as we've worked on our 6 trips to the Dominican Republic. He's done quite a bit of work here. But we've worked with a lot of other people too. Here you see the INDRI well drilling. INDRI is similar to the U.S. Geological Service in the Dominican Republic. And they drilled 2 wells for us, and we're using them for water supply for the 2 communities, Cabeza de Toro and Machete, in the Dominican Republic, on the western side of the Dominican Republic. We've also worked with a number of other communities and government organizations and non-government organizations, including Indenor, who's a project construction management company that's a religious organization. They don't charge for their labor work. We've also worked a lot with Rotary, as we've pointed out, financing and project oversight. Ede Norte is the electric company in the Dominican Republic. And one thing that happened there very quickly, we said we needed electricity in these towns for our water pumps, and they had the electricity installed within a year to the communities who didn't have any electricity prior to 2015. We're also trying to work with Mayor Samuel Toribio to get some contributions for pipe, and we're still hopeful to get something there. We have installed now for the town of Cabeza de Toro our water tank. It's about a 10,000 gallon water supply tank on top of the hill. At the top of the tank, you see Jim Saki, who worked on this trip in October, November, installing the electric. Next to me is John Cicchini, who also worked on a lot of different parts of the project and the travel. And next to him is Jacqueline, who is the executive director of Indenor. Pastor Eddie is next to her, and then we've got some people from the community and others from Indenor that have worked on this project. This water tank's at the top of the hill, and down at the bottom of the hill is the distribution pad. This is Jim Saki's masterpiece, which was just being started here. We had to finish this up during our trip in October, November last year, and got it done in time to start up so Pastor Eddie could get some water. Here we have the GPS of the how we got the map of the Cabeza de Toro water system. I used a handheld GPS instrument to get the points for this data, and John Cerrusi has been helping with getting maps for both projects, and my son-in-law Nate Conway worked on this map to get the data. And they had to give me some remedial training on using the GPS. It's a handheld thing that didn't cooperate a lot with me, but eventually I got some data points that they could use to create this map, which gives us a good direction of where things are. We have the tank up here that you saw, and then the pump is here from the well, and it goes and fills up the tank, and then the water is distributed by gravity through the piping system here. You see this triangle here, and then it goes down as you go along this pipe about a mile and a half to a school in the community. We have more to go, but we're almost done with the Cabeza de Toro, and now we're going to be working more on the Machete system. I think it's pretty neat. You can see this is on Google Earth now. You can see this triangle that I was talking about. If you look up here where the tank is, you can actually see the tank on Google Earth. I just thought it was neat that we could get that much there. That's less than a year that was there. And now you can even see, this is a close-up. Here you can see the shadow of the tank. You can also see a shadow of the distribution pad over here. So we've got information. This information is valuable documentation for the project. We've also been working with the Esperanza Rotary. Esperanza means hope in Spanish, and this was the group we worked with. Another traveler we had is hidden. He hid most of the pictures, but that's Al Ottinger. He's our Rotary contact for this project. And we've been working, like I said, with the Esperanza Rotary and Rotary International and the Rotary folks in the Lehigh Valley to get the funding for this project. Here's what the funding looks like. And the Rotary supplied $50,000 for this project from the for materials and outside labor. The big one I want you to see is the EWB travel and fees and the EWB materials and outside labor. This is actually what you all have contributed to us from your donations. So you see, we've gotten half of our money for this project from the donations that you've been able to do this so that I can go there and get this work done. And I would say, again, thank you. You'll see that the community does make a contribution. They're supposed to give 5%, and they're pretty close to that right at this time. This is the community organization that's helping to fund. Now they're operating the system now, and this is Manolo, the president of the organization, with some of his kids. There was a lot of work to do on this project that, as we were going, that the community helped with. And when we started the system up, there was a pipe leak. And when I looked at it, I said, oh boy, this is going to take up the rest of our time here. This guy on the right here, his name was Gringo. And he had the leak fixed in 2 hours. I was pretty much amazed like that. They called me Gringo a lot during the trip too. I think that's a term of endearment that they use in the Dominican Republic. Here we have another meeting with Indenor, again, our consultant, our general contractor. We had Alfredo here. He's now our communication person for the project, and he's been affected now by these times. Alfredo's father passed away earlier this month, and you see what's happened now in 2020 with COVID-19. Now travel has been stopped by EWB-USA, but remote project work is allowed, and EWB-USA gave us a grant for this project of $12,000. And our ability to have contractors that we know and people that we know on site to work on the project has enabled us to keep this project going now, and we plan to continue working. We're getting started on it as we just now, and they're getting us bids on the tank. They're going to be constructing another tank like the one you saw the picture of in Machete. We're also going to be putting a chlorine system in to disinfect the water so that it can be used for potable water. Right now, the water is being used for all the other purposes for domestic water, but it's not yet potable. You have to disinfect it before you use it. We're also planning to put in some tank system controls and to put in like as I said, the water storage tank in Machete, and start the Machete system up to some extent. We're not sure how much piping we'll be able to get, but we hope to get at least a first tap stand operating so that they can get water in the Machete community, which is pretty much next door. It's maybe a mile away from the Cabeza de Toro community. Here is Potable, and I'd like to call him a future engineer. Potable is a high school student, 16 years old. He has been the operator of the system for Cabeza de Toro. Every day, Potable goes up to on the top of the hill to take a water level for the tank to see how much water is left from the day before. And then he turns on the water system, typically for about 3 hours, to pump about 3,000 gallons into the tank for use by the community. There's about 30 connections in the community, so they are using about 100 gallons per household each day. And Potable has been dedicated to this. Like I said, it's been operating every day, and it's because of him. And I'm just impressed how much work he has put into this project. We do need to get some project items to continue the work, and just show you some of the items here. Some items for the chlorine tank, for the chlorine system, some retention tanks, and then there's a lot of pipe materials for connecting the well and connecting the tank to the distribution system. So that's what we're looking forward to provide here for the system. And again, I want to say thank you for all the contributions you've given. It's been very rewarding to me to do this type of work for the Dominican Republic and in Sierra Leone. I'm now going to turn it over to Tom to talk about the Sierra Leone project.
I'm Tom Power, and I'm the project manager for the Sierra Leone project at Matru Hospital. I'm going to tell you about that project. We just had, as Carl mentioned, a really big installation in there over the winter. But first, I just want to give you a little bit of background on the medical situation in Sierra Leone. Healthcare there is really not the best. In fact, Sierra Leone is at the top of a lot of lists you don't want to be at the top of. They've had a big struggle just trying to get medical staff, medical practitioners. In fact, there's only 113 doctors in a country of nearly 8 million. So it's a real challenge. The good news, though, is that partly because of their experience with Ebola, they've been able to really crush COVID. They have less than a handful of cases every day, fewer than we have just in the Lehigh Valley. So they've been doing really well with that. And I'm just going to try to change this. Oh, go back up. Sorry about that. The hospital itself was constructed in the 1950s by the United Brethren in Christ Church, the same folks that did the Centennial Secondary School, where we've been working since 2010. When we finished up there, we just moved down the street and started working at the hospital. Now, this was a really big hospital, and when it was built, and a really good hospital, but unfortunately during the Civil War, much of it was destroyed, just as the case was all over Sierra Leone. But they serve about an area that encompasses about 60,000 people. It's the biggest facility in about an hour of Matru, the city that it's based in. And the hospital itself serves nearly 3,000 patients a year. So it's a full-size hospital. So as Carl mentioned, this is, oops, I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my arrow keys here. So one of the reasons we chose to do this staff housing project is because as I mentioned, there's a real shortage of medical professionals in Sierra Leone. And it's really difficult to get people to move to Matru. Matru is a village. It's about 25,000 people, but it doesn't have electricity or running water or sanitation, anything like that. So it's really a remote location. And unfortunately, the pay there is very poor. Pay in Sierra Leone is not great, but it's a particular challenge in Matru. Nurses make, for example, about $750 a year. So one of the ways we thought we could help encourage people to come there and work is to provide housing for them. Housing is a real challenge all over Sierra Leone, but particularly in Matru. There's a real population boom in Matru, due in no small part to the success of the Centennial School that's added about 50% more students than when we started there. So there's a lot of people moving into Matru, and it makes it difficult for people who are making relatively low salaries to find housing. So what we decided to do was take an existing building called International House and renovate it to provide a really nice place for people to live, and also to expand it so that there would be more rooms available. So we took it from 3 bedrooms up to 6 bedrooms, and then we added 3 full bathrooms, replacing the one kind of functioning bathroom. We also added an on-call room for midwives and other medical staff that need to be there at night. Travel at night in Matru is difficult. Again, there's not lights, there's not really public transportation, so the people don't want to travel there late at night. So now they have a place to stay and sleep while they're waiting for baby to be born or surgery to start or whatever. There's also a computer room that was part of the Rotary grant. It's a place for the medical professionals living there to continue their studies and access the internet. There's also a common cooking area, an outdoor covered area, and also a common area like a living room for socializing. So just to give you an idea of where the staff housing is, you can see over here, this is the original project that we did at the hospital 3 years ago, the outpatient toilet facility near the admissions. And then over here is the pediatric toilet facility that we did last year. The staff housing is actually a very large building here. Again, it was an existing building that is actually in pretty good shape structurally, but just needed a lot of work, as you'll see. And just to give you an idea, this is what some of the wards in the hospital look like. Again, it was really nice when it was built, and they've slowly been rehabilitating it and getting it back to its former glory. Again, just the operating theater there in the middle, and the pediatric ward on the left. And this is International House. Anybody who's fixed up a house know what this means when you see ceilings missing, and there were termites. And down in the lower left, you can see here the screened-in porch is not so screened in anymore. So as Carl mentioned, this was the biggest project that we had done, and it required 2 teams to do it. We actually wound up staging the teams so that they were just a brief time between the 2 teams. But as you mentioned, this was a huge project. In fact, it was the most expensive project that we had done. We spent over $80,000 on the project, of which we got a $25,000 Rotary grant for this part of it. And there was also a grant for some collaboration, continuing education, and a conference room and video conferencing capabilities. And Carl's going to tell you a little bit more about the conference room and that aspect of the grant a little bit later. But this team, the first team, was made up of Sean Dooley, returning for his first time after being on the very first EWB-LVP trip back in 2010. And he was joined by his daughter, Kiara, who wound up not only putting the conference room and the Wi-Fi and internet access together and getting the video conference calling capability running, but she also wound up doing rounds with some of the medical professionals in the hospital. We also have Jose Silverio, who, along with Sean, worked on the steel trusses that you'll see in a little bit. That was his second trip. We have Ahmed Fulla, who was a volunteer with us at Centennial. He was an alumni of Centennial, and he volunteered with us for several years. And he just did such a fantastic job. We wound up hiring him as a construction manager. He has his own construction business, but he's worked on every project we've done since the beginning. And then, of course, there's Joe Abu, who goes on every trip we go on. The Reverend Joe is the guy that got us started in Sierra Leone and keeps us going back. And then, of course, I went on the first trip also. So you can see it was a pretty big group of people, and we were fortunate to have a good team from the hospital. You can see some of the folks there, as well as Sule, our driver, who he's not only an excellent driver, but he really takes care of us the whole time. So these are the steel trusses that I mentioned. You can see that the cement structure, the cement walls and foundation were in good shape, but the roof had to be replaced. And we chose to use metal based on the input of an engineer named Ray Proud, who volunteers with UBC and had done work at the hospital before and used steel. The wood there is very difficult to work with, and the termites are a challenge. And given the size of the trusses and the fact that we really want to make it so that there's not a lot of maintenance issues, we decided to go with the steel. So Jose and Sean worked with the welders and got it all manufactured. And you can see, whoops, again, I apologize, I'm having a little trouble. This is not an operation like you would see in the US. It's very manual. We were very fortunate to have some professional welders working with us, but we also had a welding class from the local technical school. They were very excited because they were actually getting to do some of the welding, and they were there getting training while working with us. We tried to make training a part of every project we do. We've had students work with us at Centennial, and then we even had some of them work with us at the hospital on our last project. But this was something new for us, working with the welders, and it was really great to have all the students there to help out. As you can see, it takes a lot of people to get a metal truss up on the roof, and fortunately we had a lot of students there to help us do that. And then you can also see over here in the corner, part of the first team's charter was to get the cesspit dug. We had to add a cesspit for the bathrooms in the kitchen. So that was a big project. Fortunately, it all went very well, and the trusses were put up, the roof was put on, and the cesspit was dug. The second team arrived just a few days after the first team left. So it was a very tight schedule. It gave a little bit of time for Ahmed and his men to finish up some work and get ready for the second team. The second team had a very big charter. They had to do all the tile work, the plumbing, the electrical, the windows, the doors, and finish anything that the first team didn't accomplish. So on that team, we had John Cecchini on his first trip to Sierra Leone, but he's also been working on the DR project, so he's familiar with the methods that we use. We also had Dr. Lib Stanton returning for her second trip to Sierra Leone, and with her this time was Nurse Sally Wright. Both Sally and Lib would do wiring in the morning and then do rounds with the doctors in the afternoon. So it was a very unique experience for them. Again, we had Joe and Sule and Ahmed with them. And of course, Carl Zavanet returning for his 4th trip. And whoops, we were also very fortunate to have Tamba, the staff maintenance man for the hospital, works with us just a huge number of hours. He's there before we get there every day, and he leaves after we leave every day. And of course, he was very busy this on the first trip because he actually had a baby while we were working. So that's Tamba down in the right corner with his newborn baby and his lovely wife. So the second team did an amazing job. They did, as I mentioned, all the doors and the tiling and everything. And as you can see on the right, these are real bathrooms. I mean, these are modern bathrooms with showers, flush toilets. There's a sink that you can't see in there, and then tile all the way around. Again, we're trying to make these as low maintenance as possible. So tile is, very easy to keep clean, especially with the weather they get there. You can also see there's a double kitchen sink that Sally Wright designed and implemented kind of on the fly. And that worked out really well. And then there's also tile in the bathrooms on the left-hand side. This is the outside of the building before and after. You can see the roof was in pretty bad shape. That second floor room needed a lot of work. And the screen to keep out the mosquitoes, most of it was just missing. Malaria is a big problem there. So having screened-in porches is a real advantage. You can see it turned out really well. Again, just looking at it from the other side, Ahmed and his guys did a really great job on this, and both teams really put in a huge effort. And this is Ahmed's team right out front. A lot of these guys have been working with us since Centennial. They're incredibly hardworking. Again, they're working 12, 14-hour days in the hot sun. They're very talented craftsmen, and they know that we're there for a very short time and that we push and push and push to get everything done in the very limited time that we have. And when the project was done, there was a big ceremony because, of course, in Sierra Leone, you always have to have a big ceremony. And you can see over on the left, there's Carl handing over all the keys to the new facility to Hospital Director Abdul Karim. He was very key in the design process. We would send him drawings and questions, and then he would go and talk to his staff and come back with the answers. And then you can see Lib and Sally are there with nurse matron Fatmata. She was also very involved in the design process. She helped us with the layout of the rooms and the bathrooms and just trying to understand what the people wanted. But just like over there, we were very fortunate to have a lot of people working with us. But here in the States, you've seen pictures of the travelers in the presentation, but there's a huge team of people that volunteers their time, hundreds of hours, to make this all happen. I've got to mention just a few, like Jim Saki. He put in so many hours making incredible detailed drawings for us to work off, as well as beautiful 3D renderings so that we could see what it was supposed to look like. And then Clyde Odom, a lot of you may know Clyde as the man who put out the travel reports, the daily reports while the travel teams were over there. But he was also working for a year in advance on all the doors and floors and walls and windows that were going to go in, and Clyde took care of all of that. And then, of course, Diana Dunn, who was the project manager for Centennial, continues working with EWB and Sierra Leone, and she put together the Rotary grant that provided a lot of the funding for this project. And then she worked with us while we were over there she worked with the local Rotary managing the money. So we completed the project on time and just barely under budget. Again, it was about $85,000, so a very large project for us. And as Bill mentioned, most of that funding for that project came from you, so we really appreciate your support and hope you can support us on the next project, which is going to be a central storeroom. Right now, they just have little places all over the hospital and things are thrown in, and it's not temperature controlled, it's not organized, they've had roofs leak, and just materials get spoiled because they're not stored in the proper conditions. So we're going to, so as Bill mentioned, we're not allowed to travel right now. Our projects normally take about a year. So we're going to proceed as if we were installing in April of next year. Much like when Ebola slowed us down, we just kept working, and then when things opened up, we went back. So we're going to try to do the same thing here, and we'll just keep working with the hospital and doing the design work, and then when the opportunity presents itself, we'll go over. Now, there is a possibility that we can do some work, that Ahmed and his guys can do some work over there without us being there, but we'll have to see how that plays out. So that's it for the Sierra Leone project. Again, I really appreciate your support. And Carla is now going to tell you about the other part of the Rotary grant, the conference room and internet access.
Thanks, Tom. I'll pull these up. Yeah, as Tom said, the other component of this was the educational part. We did put a training conference room in there, equipped it with remote teleconferencing. As the intention was to establish a collaboration, an educational team. Lib Staten had set up some partnerships with Lehigh Valley Hospital Residency and Sally Wright with the Cedar Crest Nursing Program. A lot of these have been a bit stalled out thanks to COVID, but we hope to get them started, as well as a lot of medical journals and apps that we can use. There's also training for the administration staff and the Bow Rotary, which is a town, either 2 hours or 7 hours away from Matru, depending on how the road conditions are, said they would support this, and along with some help from Allentown West. The Sandy Sneed, who's a member of our team, has actually also been working with the hospital administrator on their water sales business plan. They actually, this machine on the right, actually bags clean water, and they sell that to people in order to make money. They want to expand it. They don't really have good business skills there, and trying to get through to them, if you buy another car to deliver, is that really a good thing to do? Is it better to buy another machine, etc.? So she's been working with Abdul on that. Some the local support that helped us out. Cedar Crest College donated a lot of textbooks and agreed to the teleconferencing. The amazing thing is we brought over a whole bunch of equipment from Lehigh Valley Health Network. And while we were there giving it to the mission doctors that were there, they had run out of some tubing that day, opened up the case, and were just ecstatic that we had brought that over. There was also a lot of medical journals that were brought over and left there, both ebooks as well as hard copies. Sorry, wrong way. This is the picture of the conference room itself. On the far left is the nurse matron. The others are CHOs, the local, they're like physician assistants, maybe a little more than that. And then the two mission doctors are also in the conference room. Right now we're having a conference with the residents of Lehigh Valley Health Network. And this is a picture of the conference room and Lehigh Valley. And on the screen up there is the picture you just saw a second ago. So this was the first sharing that we had. And like I said, unfortunately, it hasn't happened again, but we hope to pick it up again soon. The hospital has, however, been using that conference room quite a bit. We have had conferences with them. The mission doctors had to leave, but they have had conferences with them, and they've used it a lot for training for COVID. So they've gotten a lot of use out of that conference room. And I'd also like to say we spent a lot of time training them on the conference facilities, particularly using Zoom. And who knew that learning Zoom would be something we'd carry back here. So in the future, and that's kind of it for Sierra Leone, but just to say little words about the future, we are continuing to work with these countries, even though we can't travel right now, and the virtual working is working pretty well. And the relationships are the key. And then both Tom and Bill highlighted some of the relationships we've built up over the years. And through that, we can continue working. So we are moving forward, even though the pandemic is going on. And really helping to provide these capabilities. Certainly in the DR, having clean water is key to washing and cleaning and making sure that you don't spread the virus, and also at the hospital where they've got the facilities now to help train people and keep abreast of what's going on. So a lot of good work there and a lot of good work ongoing. So this is just a thank you to everybody. I just wanted to finish up by saying that and ask Julie, our fundraising chair, if she'd say a few words about where we're at in fundraising, and also a few words on the future. And after she's done that, we'll conclude our formal presentation, but if you want to hang on, we're happy to take questions and have a discussion afterward. Julie?
Hi, everybody. I thank you again for hanging in there with us and listening in on all the progress that we've made. Just want to let you know, yes, we do have to make a pitch at the end, because usually in our auction, we make about $30,000. This year so far, we have about $8,100 donated to our projects for next year. And it's not quite enough. So if you take your mouse and you bring it down to the bottom of the screen, there will be something that pops up that says chat. If you click on the chat, you can click directly into the donation site that we have set up. The other thing that you can do is you can go to our website, which is EWB-LVP.org. That is our main website. You'll see lots of things there, some information on the various trips, but the most important thing is there's this Donate Now button that you'll find on most of the pages that are there. So what that will do is it's going to take you to a site where typically if you attend our auction, you know that we have a list for fund a cause. Hey, $50 will get you this, $100 will get you that. If you'd like to see the things that we're in need of for this next round of projects, please go to that site. You'll see how we intend to use your donations. Remember, we don't have any paid staff here. Everything that you donate is going directly to the projects. Now, we also enjoy seeing you in person. This is not exactly our ideal. However, we pushed it back to August, being optimistic. So the plan right now is to have the auction again next year, and we're looking for a date in September. So look for an email, some information on that coming up soon. If you're not on our mailing list, you can also go to our website and hit the contact us button, send an email and say, I want to be on there, and I'll put you on the mailing list. You'll get all the information of what's going on, and you can be the first to know when we do finally have a new auction date. The other thing that we're going to do is that we really would like to see you in person, and hopefully this is going to let up a little bit. So look for we have a couple of ideas on some get-togethers, and we are looking to do that as soon as this breaks. So thank you again for everything that you do for us, because without you, we couldn't do what we do. And again, that website is EWB-LVP.org. That'll get you there whenever if we're on or not. And again, thank you for everything that you do for us.
Thanks, Julie. You didn't mention the tote bags that you get from
We do have tote bags. We'll be using this again at the auction. I still have some left over.
Okay. Thanks a lot for everyone for attending.